The Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU for short, was a game changer. It revolutionized our cinematic experience and reshaped how we interact and engage with films. Unlike most film series that stick to a fairly straightforward trilogy format, or more, the MCU weaves its narratives across numerous trilogies and series, creating a web of interconnected stories that build a saga, mirroring that rich world building that we felt when reading the comics. If you're like me, meaning you're starting your journey through the MCU late and have no idea where to start, allow me to help as a fellow late bloomer. I started when Phase 3 came out. Navigating the expansive library of the MCU can be extremely daunting, even more so now that they've started to incorporate an increasing amount of elements outside of the films. The films alone have a runtime of around 50 hours and counting, so it's natural to feel overwhelmed, especially with the amount of titles. Today, I'll be your guide through the MCU, and hopefully by the end of this, I'd have given you enough information to help you choose what path you want to take for your watch through. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Even if you haven't seen a single film in the MCU, with the sheer size of the MCU and its fan base, you have more likely than not heard the terms phases or sagas. While sagas refer to an overarching story, and phases are essentially chapters in the MCU, with films being the building blocks of these chapters. So to put it simply, the MCU is split into sagas, which we currently have the Infinity Saga and the Multiverse Saga, and these are further split into phases, which each have their own films. Get it? Got it? Good. With that being said, the easiest method of watching the MCU is by following the release order. But why not have a little fun with your watch through? Why not incorporate all of what modern Marvel films and TV can offer? Let's tackle things in the definitive chronological order. So, two things of note before we get started. First, we will be covering material that might not be considered canon anymore, such as some of the television shows released pre-Disney+. But with the advent of the Multiverse Saga, you can assume that these are canon in some way. Second, we do acknowledge that the films and television shows have flashback sequences and episodes. We're not going to be a stickler and tell you to pause a film in the middle of watching so that you can switch over to something else so that it's chronologically sound. That's crazy. But we might ask that you pause a season of a show and switch to something else before continuing on with the season. That's more reasonable. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. So, the best place to start for most would be Captain America, the first Avenger. Chronologically, this is where the start of the MCU is. It must be said that there are a few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7 that take place before Captain America, but for the sake of keeping things clean narratively, it would be best to let Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. rest until after Iron Man 3. So, after Captain America, we move on to the Agent Carter one-shot, followed by Seasons 1 and 2 of Agent Carter. Then, after that, we recommend watching Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel takes place in 1995. Yeah, huge gap between Captain America and Captain Marvel, but nothing really happens film-wise between them. After Captain Marvel, over a decade later MCU timeline-wise, we go right into Iron Man, which takes place in 2008, followed by its sequel, Iron Man 2, which are narratively back-to-back. I gotta point out that these two films are a little unique in the MCU since it's rare to see sequels appear in the same phase as the previous entry in the series, but since Iron Man did jumpstart the MCU, it makes sense. After Iron Man 2, we have The Incredible Hulk. Fun fact, The Incredible Hulk was actually released by Universal, not Disney. I won't get into too many details, but just know that there are some weird distribution rights happening around this time. Anyway, quickly following The Incredible Hulk, we have the one-shot known as The Consultant, which is directly followed by another one-shot, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer, which serves as a little prequel to the next item on our list, Thor, which will wrap up 2010 on the chronology. After Thor, 2 years pass and it becomes 2012, the year the Avengers film takes place, so go watch The Avengers, followed quickly by the one-shot Item 47. With that, we mark the end of Phase 1. Our chronology continues with Iron Man 3, and then the one-shot All Hail the King. If you watch both of these, you are now ready to start watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, so this is gonna get a little tricky. First, watch episodes 1 through 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1. Then watch Thor: The Dark World. The reason being that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. likes to tie into events of the films. And after Thor: The Dark World, you can continue with episodes 8 through 16 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which tie into Thor: The Dark World. After you watch those, it's time to move to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, one of my favorites, and then continue with episodes 17 through 22 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Pause Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., continue with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., take a pause, take a breather, continue. Alright, next up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Watch both of those back to back as those movies take place during the year 2014. This is followed by the Guardians-centric I Am Groot. When you finish that, it's time to return to Earth with the first of the Netflix Marvel shows, Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Watch season 1 of both, and then start up season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You can watch all the way up to episode 19 before switching over to the Avengers Age of Ultron. I know I just told you to do a ton of things, so let's take a small breather. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. Okay, after Age of Ultron, you can switch back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and finish season 2. Then watch your next film, Ant-Man. After Ant-Man, you can go watch some more Netflix shows with Daredevil season 2 and Luke Cage season 1. Are you still watching? Good. After this, you're cool to watch the first 19 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 3. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 3, as this season transitions into phase 3 of the MCU. Captain America Civil War starts off the phase 3 films with a bang. Once you finish Civil War, you can finish Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 3, and then move on to season 4, where you can watch up to episode 8. Then comes Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Slingshot. After Slingshot, you're free to watch the remainder of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 4th season. Okay, now we get to watch Iron Fist. The whole first season takes place here and is followed closely by The Defenders, which is a really cool mashup of all the heroes of the Netflix Marvel shows up until now, and it takes place immediately after Iron Fist. Then we watch Spider-Man Homecoming, before watching the first season of The Punisher. Okay, after The Punisher, we have one of the best films in the MCU, Doctor Strange. Funny enough, I mentioned that I started watching the MCU in Phase 3, but I actually did watch some of the films before. This was actually my second film from the MCU, and it's still one of my favorites. I watched this and The Incredible Hulk, funny enough. And then when Phase 3 came out, I just watched through all of it. Watched through all of what was out there. Anyway, after Doctor Strange, you can return to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with 19 episodes of Season 5. And after that, you can go check out Black Widow, which happens almost immediately after. Following Black Widow, we have Black Panther, which is closely followed by a slew of television shows such as the entirety of Jessica Jones' second season. Still following? Well, here's a few curveballs. After watching Jessica Jones, you get to watch Inhumans, the one and only season out there. Thank God. Moving on, we then get to watch Luke Cage Season 2, Iron Fist Season 2, and Daredevil Season 3 in that order, before we get The Punisher Season 2. After this, we have Jessica Jones Season 3, Cloak and Dagger Seasons 1 and 2, and The Runaways Season 3. Yes, The Runaways. Season 3. After running through all of those shows, now we get one of the best entries in the Thor series, Thor Ragnarok. Hilarious. You'll love it, trust me. Once you're wrapped up with Ragnarok, you can finish off the rest of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 before moving on to Ant-Man and the Wasp. And once you're done with that, you can indulge in Avengers Infinity War, the first of 2 Avengers entries for Phase 3. Alright. Once you're done crying your eyes out, you can follow Infinity Wars up with the entirety of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, and then when you're done with that, you can continue with the tears with Avengers Endgame. Damn, Infinity Wars and Endgame were so good. Okay, afterwards, cool off with the 7th and final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to wrap up the show. Tahiti certainly was a magical place.
You should go sometime.
Where?
Tahiti. It's a magical place.
Okay, so right after that, we get into our first Disney Plus show, WandaVision. And while it's a little tricky, we can probably put Loki Season 1 and Season 2 right after WandaVision. Alright, this is where I generally do something special. It's not too much longer after this that the MCU claims all Marvel movies and television series as canon to some capacity, linking into a larger multiverse. So, with that being said, the more important series you need to watch would definitely be the Spider-Man movies as well as X-Men. These movies are in completely different universes, so chronology needs to be treated all the same as well. Okay, so to start off the binge, watch the X-Men series. That would be X-Men First Class, which is set in 1962, X-Men Days of Future Past, set in 1973, and X-Men Origins Wolverine, set in 1981. Then you need to see X-Men Apocalypse, set in 1983, and X-Men Dark Phoenix, set in 1992. If you're feeling extra spicy and really want to watch in super chronological order, then wedge the previously mentioned X-Men movies between Captain America and Captain Marvel towards the top of the list, because that is an empty wasteland of Marvel films, and why not fill it with more Marvel films in the form of X-Men? Next up, you gotta watch X-Men, set in 2000, X2, X-Men United, set in 2003, and X-Men The Last Stand, set in 2006, and The Wolverine, set in 2013. Follow these with Deadpool, set in 2016, and Deadpool 2, 2018. followed by The New Mutants 2026 and Logan 2029. Now, technically Deadpool 3 should come after Deadpool 2, but due to the third Deadpool movie taking place within the MCU officially, I would recommend waiting until we get to that time in the MCU, so save Deadpool for later. Next is the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man movies, featuring Tobey Maguire, which come in order of Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Love these films. I know people give them a lot of flack nowadays, but still love them. Especially the Green Goblin. Oh, God. Not even that. I feel like there's so many quotes that come out of these three films. Spider-Man, the power of the sun in the palm of my hands. I'm something of a scientist myself. I think that was a quote. Anyway, these movies are set in 2002, 2004, and 2007, so you could wedge them in with the X-Men movies if you want to punish yourself even more. But for now, let's keep it simple and watch these movies whenever you want. After this comes the Amazing Spider-Man movies featuring Andrew Garfield. Just before you watch them, I would suggest watching Madam Web, as there is a tie-in to the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies there. Now, as for the actual Andrew Garfield movies, there are two of them, and if you want to watch them in chronological order, which I assume you do, it shouldn't be hard because there's only two of them, and one of them is titled The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I would also recommend watching Venom. Now, you're free to return to the MCU. Okay, returning to the MCU, this is where I'll tentatively put Watch Deadpool 3 here, because the movie hasn't been released yet. So you may have to skip it until later, but officially, to my knowledge, the movie takes place here, just after Loki, for reasons the trailer shows. Following that, watch Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and follow it thereafter with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then watch Spider-Man Far From Home and No Way Home back to back. I might also consider watching Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage here. While Venom 2 does take place in another universe, it's important to watch it here as it may have implications for the future of the MCU. I would also suggest watching Morbius here too. And why not watch the two Spider-Verse films? Especially since Across the Spider-Verse has a little MCU nod in it. Okay, alright, so The Eternals comes after that, followed by Hawkeye, which is then followed by Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You'll notice, particularly in Multiverse of Madness, that the Disney Plus series have major ramifications for even MCU films, so it's important to get context by watching them. After Multiverse of Madness, you can check out Moon Knight, and I personally love Moon Knight because the show itself is a little disconnected from the madness that is the MCU. So it serves as a good break, because right after Moon Knight is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And this one will break you, because it broke me, and you'll understand when you watch it, because, ooh, oh god, I'm crying. Oh my god, I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I'm crying. Alright. So once you wipe your tears away, we can switch back to watching more Disney Plus series, such as Echo, She-Hulk, and Ms. Marvel in that order. Ms. Marvel acts as a good lead into the Marvels movie because it features her and it features the Marvels, the other Marvels, such as Captain Marvel. After that, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, it should be noted, little fun fact again, side fact, that this is the fourth film in the Thor series, and Thor is the first Marvel hero to get a fourth solo movie, which is so funny to think about. I mean, I guess no, even that is not fair to say. So Thor, congratulations, you got 4 movies. Afterwards, you're going to want to watch Werewolf by Night, which is the first Marvel Studios presentation, and Guardians of the Galaxy's Christmas special, the second Marvel Studios special presentation. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania follows afterward, and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then, finally, to put a pin in it before future series and films come out, watch Secret Invasion. Whew. Anyway, you get all that? I know it's hard to understand, especially with the way we incorporated a ridiculous amount of Marvel films and TV shows into this chronology, so if you would prefer to watch by order of release, you could watch it the way Marvel likely intended, which was by phases. And to put it all together in a nice little list, let's talk about the phases. First, we start with the Infinity Saga, which comprises of phases 1 through 3. Phase 1 in release order is Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America: The First Avenger, and The Avengers, followed by Phase 2, Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. And the last phase in the Infinity Saga, Phase 3, Captain America: Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers: Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers: Endgame, and Spider-Man: Far From Home. Once we're done with that, we have Phase 4, which is part of the multiverse saga. In Phase 4, we have WandaVision, our first Disney Plus series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, our second Disney Plus series, Loki, Black Widow, What If, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Hawkeye, Spider-Man No Way Home, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel, Thor, Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Oh, and let's not forget the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Next, we have Phase 5, which, fun fact, Phase 4 was like really long, and then somewhere down the line they split Phase 4 and started Phase 5 early, like literally in the middle of Phase 4. So a lot of these films were announced previously as Phase 4 films, or Phase 4 series and films, but are now Phase 5. Anyway, next you can watch Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, What If Season 2, and Echo. Currently we're still in Phase 5, but Phase 6 is already planned out. The movies yet to be released in each phase would be the following: Deadpool 3, which is Deadpool and the Wolverine, Captain America Brave New World, which I believe they actually changed the title to Captain America New World Order, and The Thunderbolts. Not to mention they've already announced the films in the future Phase 6, which are Fantastic Four, Blade, Avengers The Kang Dynasty, and Avengers Secret War. Beyond even this, there are a few untitled movies that are planned, and even at least one rumored movie. These movies include Armor Wars, which is still in development. It remains a question whether it would be a feature film or a Disney Plus series. There's also an untitled sequel to Spider-Man No Way Home, an untitled sequel to Shang-Chi, and an untitled X-Men film. There are also rumors from Sam Raimi, you know, the director for Spider-Man's 1 through 3 and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, along with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst mentioning that they're open to a fourth film in the Raimi Spider-Man saga, though this is unconfirmed and Raimi has stated that there are no plans for such a movie currently. Frankly, I probably didn't even need to list the entitled movies, as we're not even sure about their release order. I'm just adding more fuel to the flames of confusion. Heck, we're not even sure about the release order of Phase 6 movies, to be honest with you, but I added them in for the sake of being accurate, so I hope you don't mind the extra information. Anyway, that is the entire MCU chronology, and then some. And when I mean some, I mean way more than you needed to know. But in the end, the two choices that we have presented you are the chronological order or the release order. Whichever you choose is up to you. I just hope that I gave you a guide that you can follow, and I hope it was easy to understand, because sometimes when you're explaining something to someone that doesn't really understand the foundation of the thing you're trying to explain, it just sounds like words to them. So I really hope somewhere in this word vomit is something helpful for you to use. It honestly doesn't matter to try the chaos route. Hell, watch it in reverse order, or do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. And with that, my friends, I bid you peace, farewell, and until next time, Excelsior.